Morning all. I have an interesting idea which was mentioned by one of you guys recently for the topic of one of my radio shows to cover the classic Blitz tournament of 1970, where Fischer proved to the world he was an amazing Blitz player, in particular 5-minute chess. So in this tournament he was playing many of the strongest Russian players, ex-USSR, like Tal, Petrosian. He was playing them 2 games each. So this is when he was playing Mikhail Tal with the white pieces. Surprisingly, Fischer kicked off with G3. So bear in mind this is a 5-minute game, so you can expect a lot more blunders than serious FIDE time control. Mikhail just played for a fianchetto as well, so they're both playing like Benko, Pal Benko. This is like Benko's opening, and Fischer said that in his notes. So hyper modern, sort of King's Indian attack formation here. Now, a very strange move actually. I think it's ultra solid, this next move, sort of Slavian, to play c3. So it's as though Fischer's wanting to play d4 and just have an iron grip on some of the dark squares, but not be too adventurous with c4. So he's keeping black's dynamism a bit down with c3, this kind of reverse kind of Slav formation. Very, very solid in the centre. So both sides castle, and now d4. Now interestingly, already this could be a blunder from black. Maybe Mikhail didn't want CD and to give white, say, the c3 square for the knight. He played d6 and perhaps didn't expect this next simplification by Fischer. Fischer just took on c5. Unless Tal wants to sack a pawn here, it doesn't look like a particularly amazing gambit. He's going to have the exchange of queens. So, and this occurred now, the exchange of queens. And now, unfortunately for black, there's annoying pressure on c5. Now with bishop e3. So white has something here. He's also blunted this fianchetto bishop on that diagonal. That c3 pawn's quite useful here. Not only that, this knight can potentially come to a juicy square here, c4. So knight a6, protecting c5, now knight a3. So it's a little bit uncomfortable for black, this position. The knight also can potentially be dangerous on b5. Knight d5 hitting that bishop on e3. For the moment it can be pinned to the d8 rook. Okay, so bishop g4, unpinning. Now the bishop should move here to avoid structural damage. Bishop d2. Okay, and now h6. Keeping white out of the g5 square, as Fischer's notes indicate. Now, okay, in this position, white does have, I think, a small advantage, but black does seem quite active. This bishop's kicked now on g4 with h3, kick back, and now knight b5 is used, so it restricts a little bit the knights potentially coming to c7. At the moment they can still come to c7. It restricts the rook though, because their knight takes a7, so the knight's a bit of a pest over here, and Mikhail goes to exchange it off, but actually it's just supported now. Fischer doesn't mind the double pawns on the a file, to get a file pressure rather, if he plays a4. So these double pawns, you know, maybe he can continue with all sorts of stuff after takes, like rook a5 maybe. But actually there's a slight weakness to the last move here, this b3, which is pounced on, which might be useful for d-file pressure, you would have thought. The rook can safely move though without losing a piece just yet. Knight takes b5, and then the knight comes to attack that pawn. So how does Fischer actually do something about b5? He doesn't. Rook a5, I think b6. What he does is counterattack now c5. He plays bishop e3. So the bishop's returning there to where it once was. And now it's getting a little bit tricky for black. If b6, then the diagonal is a bit weakened. Maybe knight d2 hitting b3. Or there might even be better moves after that. I don't really want to turn on an engine for a 5-minute game. I just want to keep it in the flow. So let's just carry on here. Knight takes b5, bishop takes c5. So 2 pawns are attacked, but that's defended by the knight at the moment. Now this next move is considered a blunder by Fischer, b6. It was not necessary to give away a pawn. Black could have simply just played e6 and then maybe e3 with the idea of knight d4 would be a nice centralizing knight move. So black gave away a pawn here with b6. Bishop takes e7, rook e8. So okay, superficially, what about this pawn? Well, bishop a3 was played. The thing is, this pawn cannot be taken. I think because of bishop f1, nasty skewer. Not at the moment. And if knight takes, then rook takes, hitting the bishop. So, rook ad8 is played. So Fischer's a pawn up here, but black looks to have an active position. So how is that activity squashed? Well, the extra pawn in the centre is handy. e3, reinforcing d4 for the knight. So ultra solid, really, this usage of this opening by Fischer in this 5-minute game. A pawn up, a powerful square on d4. The position is easily winning for white, Fischer writes. So a5, now knight d4. It does look pretty powerful. This fianchetto in particular looks gorgeous. We've got the double kind of crossfire of the bishops. But one of the bishops is about to be eliminated. Now bishop c4. Bishop f1, not minding trading off the bishops. Getting into a knight, bishop and 2 rooks ending. But that's refused. It's offered again. Now rook a4, kicking the bishop. After bishop d3, now b4. So trying to rip through that a file. But now a takes b, rook takes, pressure on b6. Rook d6. Rook d1. Bishop moves, using that pin for a moment. Rook d2, the bishop moves again. Rook d, b2, ganging up on b6. So look at the beautiful coordination of white's position. That beautiful knight on d4 supported by these pawns. Rook c8, trading weaknesses. So rook takes b6, trading for that c3 weakness. But unfortunately now even more structural damage for black. Opposite coloured bishop ending, you might think might offer some salvation, but not really here, because it's double pawns. There's an easy target on f2, but f7, but there isn't on f2. These are more solid for protecting that slight weakness. Black goes into passivity here. Rook b5, but also now this weakness is put in question. After rook e7, probing both weaknesses really, keeping an eye on both of them. Rook e5, trying to hold on, but now this just loses the f7 weakness. Fischer writes better to give up the pawn on f5 with f4 or bishop f8, but it's a matter of time in any case. So he's losing f7 now after rook b7. So king moves, rook takes f7, 2 pawns up, opposite coloured bishops, very little to save black here. Bishop d3, again targeting f5. After rook a5, king g2, we have here 1-0. It might have been a time forfeit, or black might have just resigned here. It is 2 pawns down. I'm not sure it was Fischer increment clocks. It might have just been a straight 5-minute game, 5 minutes each without any increment on the moves. So an incredibly solid use of an opening there for a 5-minute game actually. Steering away from 1e4, just playing, as Fischer writes, like Benko. So Benko's opening, which looks like a King's Engine attack really, but with a difference now of c3 and d4. Instead of the usual kind of plan of like d3 and e4, a King's Engine attack would usually be d3 and e4. So this has got more dark square grip going for it. It's sort of targeting this bishop to blunt the bishop with this Slavian pawn triangle. But d takes c5 put black in actually quite a miserable position. So it's as if d6 was the initial early mistake. So there's just annoying pressure here with this knight annoyingly coming to b5 soon, and it looks as though superficially, well, what about this b3? Isn't that significant? But or the b5, the double pawn weakness, is like being a dislocated pawn. But this bishop e3 again has a lot of venom to it. So knight takes b5, bishop takes c5, and another. This is like the major blunder to lose a pawn, which really takes black downhill from here after b6. So Fischer a pawn up, and now has this useful bishop f1 resource, so that the e2 pawn is immune. He reinforces a knight on the center, in the center, and gets his rooks coordinated on a poor target b6. And after this exchange of weaknesses, more structural damage for black, and now starting to lose a second pawn. So it's hopeless now, even though it's opposite coloured bishops. It's here that black either resigned or lost on time. I hope you enjoyed that. I want to go through rapidly the other games. I'm not going to give them the intense analytical approach or try and turn on an engine. There's 22 games to go over. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. But I enjoyed it anyway, so I hope that came out in the video. So this is good stuff to see Fischer's 5-minute games. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.